Well, over the last couple of years, Bay One Customs and TC Penick have had an increased presence in SEMA and a bunch of really cool custom vehicles. This year is no exception. We're at the Heat Shield Products booth with Overstack and TC Penick. Dude, out of the park. This is an awesome truck, so walk us through it.
Well, it's been down to the wire. We've done 1,931 hours in about the last 4.5 months or so. Then the truck left like Saturday night on its way here. It went straight through 26 hours. So it's just been a whirlwind getting here, but I am so glad to be here.
You and I live pretty close together. You help me on my projects. People that watch Hands on Cars, they've seen you a bunch. I've been on your blogs, bay1customs.com. You know, we all call it the SEMA crunch, so give us a couple stories, man.
Well, about mid-flight of this, I came up and helped you on Zed Sled.
Absolutely.
And I told you I was completely stressed out of time, so you offered to swap out some time, so you coming up and helped me do that front end, I thank you for that, because all that fiberglass work and stuff, I couldn't have got it done in time without you. Then not only that, the front windshield, you know, we went through like six windows, 2 different vendors, and we got this window from the Glass Guy Chicago. On a Friday, I sent him a template. In 3 days, he met me halfway in Indianapolis with that window. I put it right in there and it fit like a glove.
Yeah, Brian Harding is the man, Glass Guy in Chicago. He came through for you. So that's the perfect segue. Talk about the way you chop this top. You nailed the proportion, dude, and that's so hard to do.
Yeah, and I tried to do it without moving the post in so that we could keep the post proportional.
Yeah.
So we chopped it 4.5 inches in the back. I dropped it 4 3/4 inches in the front to give this a little bit of a rake. These Fords had a high front in the windows, and I wanted to take that out of it. Then I took another inch out right here between the rain gutter and the top of the roof.
To lower the top.
Yep.
Down.
Then I sectioned it and widened it 36 millimeters and lengthened it 22 millimeters because the footprint got larger as it came down.
Yeah.
And it made it look proportional. And then I dropped the back window full size straight down to have a full size back window.
Right.
So when you look at it from a distance, you really can't tell it's chopped. It just
No, you can't, because like I said, you got a good eye for proportion and a good eye for design, and again, a nice detail here that you kind of overlook. And I knew it had one-piece glass. These had a wing window from the factory. I refer to Da Vinci's rule of thirds all the time, and that's a standard in photography and design, but you've captured that here by eliminating that wing window. You've got a third here. The proportion is perfect, man.
Yeah, and actually when I started the top chop, I cut this window loose first and put a black piece of paper behind it, and made that look the way I wanted the side glass to look, to give it a good look on the side glass, and then built around it and then went up and around. And not only doing that, in the front end, these old Ford trucks, the front end looks like it's straight out, which it is straight out and up high. So I cut 1.5 inches off this fiberglass bonnet and brought it back. In doing so, the mouth was smaller, so I had to cut the top of this, and I lowered it down, cut the side of this, lowered it in, and dropped this front 1.25 inches so that it's all nosing down. Yeah,
and your vents are gone. It's so clean. There's no side vents here, your center vent. What did you do for suspension on the front? I mean, I can see it, but their wheel is centered. And these F100s, it was goofy from the factory.
Yeah, well, what we did was a Camaro subframe in here.
Right.
I have a 74 Camaro, which made it really difficult for that big block Ford, and the hooker headers were really tight to get down through there. So I got with David at Steer Clear, and he solved the problem with that Steer Clear. It comes out into it and down, and then I can get right back into that Camaro subframe. But this thing drives so good with that Camaro subframe.
And we'll talk about the rear suspension in a minute, because you got to see it. It's pretty impressive. But what I'm looking at right here is the Eastwood Tri-Flow radiator. Obviously, it's a universal fit. You just made your brackets to fit it in here. But how does it work?
Oh, it works great. It works better than I thought it would. This big 460 John Bouchard built is pushing out like 600 foot-pounds of torque, so I was a little concerned about overheating, so I put a 160-degree thermostat in it. Well, in doing so with the Tri-Flow radiator, the engine won't even hardly get up to 160 to open the thermostat, so I'm going to have to put a 180 thermostat in it. Butch drove us around town yesterday quite a bit in traffic, and it didn't overheat at all. So the Tri-Flow radiator is working outstanding. And I know Johnny V's used it. I know you've used it.
I've got one in Zed Sled.
And I can't say enough for that radiator right there. You'll notice I have a 5mm gap on everything throughout. And on these tilt front ends, a lot of times they just latch down with a big rubber strap, and I didn't want that. So I went and got latches out of a Chevrolet car, fabricated in this lip, made this top where it shuts like a drum. Then I've got a pull release inside to open it up. So it worked out real nice.
Very cool. Well, let's take a look at the suspension.
All right, let's go.
The first thing you see on the side is this ridiculous dished wheel. I had an apartment smaller than that when I lived in Los Angeles years ago. This is sick. Tell me about the wheels.
Well, Chris Kindon, a good friend of mine, wanted to help me out with these wheels. Most of the wheel orders he get are for the larger, you know, the 22s and all that. He doesn't get many orders for the 15, so he had to take 2 rims, cut the lip off, weld them together, and put an insert in them to come up with an 18-inch wide wheel for these 20-inch wide tires. So we got a total of 40-inch wide rubber in the back of this truck.
Well, when you see it from the back end, it's just impressive. And you've tubbed it to the inside. These are fiberglass reproduction fenders.
Yeah, Bebop made these, and they're outstanding. They're 3 inches wider.
Yeah.
And the quality of them are so good. All I really had to do was sand and epoxy with Eastwood's epoxy and paint them.
Yeah.
They're really, really nice.
Very nice. And that's a new bed.
Yep. Pros Pick bed.
Yep. I love your taillights. It's a brushed finish on the taillight, and it's just, like I said, it's very simple, it's very businesslike, and it does the job, right?
Well, I learned that from you. These are just your economy aftermarket. But when you sand them with that Scotch-Brite and then put flat clear on them, it makes them look so much nicer.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing is neat is the front grille and the rear bumper. They're shiny. Everything else is flat on this thing.
Yep, and that's Eastwood's new ceramic coat paint.
Okay.
And that's so easy to deal with. I love shooting and spraying that stuff because it's just single stage, spray it on there and let it happen. Yeah.
Okay, tell me the thought behind leaving the bed open.
Well, as we started doing the back, I wanted to do something different. You see bolt-on parts everywhere.
Yeah.
These trailing arms come off a 70 Chevrolet truck with coil springs.
Yeah.
When I started working them in and it looked so neat, it reminded me of an old four-wheeler or something back in the day when I was a kid. So I just wanted to show all that off. Then I went in here with the larger tires. I've only got like 10 millimeters of clearance on each side of the tire. So I needed an exact centering method. So that's the Watts link there. A panhard bar doesn't center it as well as that Watts link. And you can see
the Watts link,
you can see how that operates.
So you got really precise heim joints and you're perfectly centered and you can dial it in and tune it. The truck arms, well, that's an industry standard. NASCAR still uses the truck arms, and they are from a truck originally.
Yeah, that's right.
But you've refined it with an upper mounted Watts link, and I don't think I've ever seen that on a hot rod before.
Yeah, most of them are mounted on the rear, and I wanted to show it off, so we mounted it on the top there.
Well, you also solved another problem of space and confinement. Your coilover springs, with your Watts link, you'd have to move your coilovers, then you mess with that geometry. So now you can keep everything where it's supposed to be. I don't know. Well done, man. Well thought out.
Yep, worked out good, didn't it?
Yep. And you've got tons of heat shield product stuff on here. DB Shield, you've got the lava wrap on it. And it's not just to show it off, this stuff works.
Yeah, it works real well. Especially the DB Shield that I've got on the doors. Those doors are real tinny sounding. And you put that on there and it's just dead solid sound when you tap on it now. So.
Well, the big thing here is the flat paint. You walk around SEMA this year, especially, flat paint is where it's at. And it's a really neat look, it's a soft look, it's very mean, and it fits the build perfectly. But it's no joke to spray. Some of the challenges with flat paint are streaking, modeling, things like that, but you think your way through problems. So talk to us and maybe educate the people watching this a little bit about some techniques on spraying the Eastwood Flat Clear.
Well, one of the things with spraying the Flat Clear is you need the humidity to be low. It needs to be below 30% or less, because it will cause it to flash off too soon.
Yeah.
And when you come off of that paint, it needs to be as wet as possible with the slowest reducer as possible, because you need the flattening agent to come to the top evenly.
Yeah.
So if you don't let it come to the top evenly and leave a streak in it, that streak is going to be there. So
some people think that humidity is going to let the paint. It's going to take the paint longer to dry, because that's how it does with latex paint. Because there's more moisture in the air. Water is the solvent with latex paint, so when you're painting a house, that's true. But with automotive paints, they're moisture cured, so more humidity in the air, it's going to flash off faster, like you did. And people need to be reminded of that when they're doing a project like this.
Yeah, and it won't let it out gas. So what it'll do is just make it turn milky and kind of foggy, because it'll just trap all those solvents in the paint.
Now, hot rodding in the 50s started with a bunch of guys putting a bunch of parts together from a bunch of different cars to make what they wanted to be a car, right?
Yep.
So you've done the same thing. This is pure hot rodding. Talk about the seat. It's not a Ford F-100 seat.
No, this is out of a 90 model Chevrolet truck seat, as long with the firewall. The firewall come out of a 90 model Chevrolet truck as well. The rest of it, we did like a skeleton type interior system as far as panel goes. So there's no door panels, there's no interior panels. It's all the actual metal from the vehicle. So we did a DB shield over this and heat shrink it and shot a semi-gloss on it. My ceiling, that's the actual skin of the roof up there. And I put the lava shield on that. Then inside here, you can see I just texture coated the metal and then semi-glossed all the framing.
Yep. Again, all business. the integrated floor mats, I've never seen that before. You got the Raptor liner on that, and it looks like a floor mat sitting in there, but man, it's a tough coating.
Yeah, that's PVC plastic. I shear it in strips, and then you take a heat gun and heat it in place, and then glue it to the floor, and then spray Raptor liner right over top of it. floor mat.
Very cool. Nice touch on the pedals, very industrial, the Willwood pedals. Is that a low-car gas pedal?
Yes, that is a low-car gas pedal. And you saw outside with the steer clear,
yeah.
So you can see in here where my steering column goes straight in, and it gives me enough clearance and real estate for my pedals so that my steering column is not right there where your feet go.
Yeah.
And then that goes along with my hot rod theme, and underneath my dash you can see my Sportsman XFI, fuel injection, my MSD, so everything is hot rod, and everything was decided with hot rod in mind.
And this is a real functional vehicle. You've got a heater in here, no air conditioning. You don't really need it with this.
And I always make them to drive, so everything from the camshaft to the tire height to the gear ratio is set to where this thing will go down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, about 2,000 RPMs. The Camaro subframe gives you a nice ride, nice brakes, very dependable, runs cool. I mean, this could be a daily driver.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah, the bike got away from me on the way out here, and I thought I better get this home so we can get this to SEMA.
Before you bend it,
yeah.
Round off a few corners.
Yep.
It's interesting to me that you use the model car for a rendering, because that's what I get. That's the vibe I get when I look at the front of this. It looks like an enlarged toy car, or like a model of some kind. And the way you did that was really smart, I thought. The little marker lights that usually go under the headlights of an F100 in this year, they're gone. It just makes it look a little bit animated.
Yeah, and that's what we're shooting for. And if you'll notice, when I lowered the front end, well, with doing the marker lights, I lowered the grill in the center of the opening of the mouth of the bonnet. And then you notice the Eastwood ceramic coat, like on the back bumper, really looks nice on there. And then all that work you did for me. This thing had recesses for bumper mounts and marker lights. And
we flattened this out just using basic double-sided fiberglass repair techniques, and flattened it out here, smoothed everything, smoothed this up behind so it looks like the grill is lifted off. That's all real simple techniques that are good DIY techniques. But the interesting thing is what it does. It creates space here. The grill is now floating, and I don't know, I mean, the thing that I learned in my studies of fiberglass repair is the magic bullet, the sealing, the M&M shell on the end of every fiberglass repair is gel coat. And it creates that skin on top of it, and it's really important for guys to remember, and that's what we did there. And it was really cool to have my hands in this project somehow. It was nice to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I really like that gel coat technique. In the past I've done epoxy and stuff like that, but your method with the gel coat really locks that fiberglass down to where the solvents can't come up through that fiberglass, especially on the aftermarket fiberglass stuff. That stuff can work out for months.
So, you know, having said that, there's Eastwood coatings, Eastwood products all over this truck. How did Eastwood help build Overstack?
Well, Eastwood helped out with the flat rod clear. This has even got a high metallic midnight black base coat on it that outside it's just the flake is just incredible. But not only in their products, the Eastwood plasma cutter, I love that. I've used plasma cutters for years, but I guess the technology's gotten up to now where like the tip, I use one tip over and over and over where they used to really burn them up. So the plasma cutter was super helpful with this. And then the ceramic coatings, the radiator, the primers, the epoxy. I love that epoxy. I use that epoxy for everything. I even use it as a sealer before I paint, just reduce it down a little more and use it as a sealer. So a lot of great products on here from Eastwood.
Yeah, well, I know we're proud to be on your vehicles, and again, beautiful job. Congratulations for making it to SEMA. This is TC Penick from Bay One Customs and Overstacked.